talk about that. So look, let's put something to bed. I know you do not want to continue to talk about Brian Kelly in Michigan. I get it. I'm with you. I understand. It was a bad rumor. Look, and let's even call out what the rumor was from the beginning, and at least to the way that I see it at the current moment. Okay? This is when LSU was playing Texas A&M. Billy Lucci of Texags came out and said on Jacob Hester's national radio show that Brian Kelly would have interest with Michigan if that job were to come open. Why is it key about the Billy Lucci thing? Not that Billy Lucci said it completely. It's about when he said it. Because LSU was playing A&M at home, having a lot of A&M commits that would be in Baton Rouge that LSU was trying to flip. Oh, by the way, LSU flipped 4 Texas A&M commits in this past cycle alone, going for number 5 in Terry Bussey. I think that personally, and look, I don't mean this in a wrong way towards Billy Lucci. When it comes to Texas A&M, the dude breaks a lot of stories. He is in the know at Texas A&M. Broke the Mike Elko story. Broke the Jimbo story. Okay, sounds fantastic. He is solid. He knows his stuff there. Okay, cool with that. Fine with that. The dude is good at what he does for his business. I told you when that happened, it was because Billy Lucci, and who, by the way, came out a couple weeks later saying that he hates that LSU tampers with A&M's roster, even though they've been trying to do it to LSU and it hadn't been successful. It's key that he was the one saying it. Now, it made its way through the the local scene. It's been something that's been talked about pretty heavily. Something that the day Christmas Eve that a video goes viral in reference to this. And I'm just going to continue to say what I've been saying from the very beginning. Is there a possibility that at any point Brian Kelly would draw interest from Michigan and even have a conversation with him? Sure. I think it's plausible that a coach right now, with Saban being out, the winningest head coach in college football, I would assume, gets phone calls from a lot of people. But as soon as the news broke today that Jim Harbaugh was going to be heading to Los Angeles to take over for the Chargers, immediately, boom, 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 boom. Pete Thamel reporting, Pete Thamel, as an example, from ESPN said, Sharon Moore, the OC at Michigan, who was the interim head coach this year when Harbaugh was suspended, is likely to get promoted. Here are some other candidates that likely would be in the fold if Moore is not the guy. Number 1, Lance Leipold. I thought number 1 was Brian Kelly. That he was pushing for that gig. You mean to tell me that you're going after Lance Leipold or the guy at Kansas State over Brian Kelly? Well, I thought Brian Kelly didn't have a massive buyout because somebody read a contract. Okay. Well, okay. I mean, I'm confused here. So when it came to nut cutting time and Harbaugh left for the NFL because they're about to face sanctions, which we'll talk about in a minute, all of a sudden Brian Kelly's his name's nowhere to be found. He said that this was his last stop. LSU was his last stop. You got people in this camp saying, look, man, this just isn't true. Like, have reached out to us. This just isn't true. I don't know where this is coming from. I know that you do not want to talk about it. I get it. It's just something that has to always be discussed when you're talking about your head coach potentially going somewhere else. And there being a likelihood, look, man, it could happen. It 100% could happen. I shouldn't say 100% could happen. It could be a possibility that Brian Kelly, who's coached in the Midwest before, can want to go back to the Midwest. Okay. He's successful. He's had, excuse me, 6 of the last 7 seasons he's been a head coach. He's had 10 win seasons in all of those years. All right, makes sense. But when LSU and Brian Kelly started making moves, Blake Baker, Bo Davis, when they got Corey Raymond back, when they got Bryce Underwood and Harlem Berry and DeCorian Moore even, and I know that was before any of this came out, but looking that you have the commitment from DeCorian Moore, none of this makes sense to me. None of it has ever made sense to me why you would continue to build LSU the way that you are if you want to be at Michigan. None of it made sense. And there's 2 things that never made sense to me. One you know about, the other we have not mentioned. Number one, why would he go there when Michigan's going to get hit with sanctions? I don't understand it. I legitimately don't get it. You're already behind the 8 ball. You're going to have to rebuild a little bit at Michigan. You've already started this process, and it's at LSU, and it's not like Brian Kelly is a spring chicken. Don't mean that in a negative way. Love the dude to death. But it's realistic. He's brought it up in press conferences like, guys, I'm 60 plus years old. This is the last go for me. I'm trying to win a natty. Like that's my goal here. Even to the fact that he donated $1 million of his own salary to add on the building at Football Ops for a recovery center. I mean, the guy literally gave $1 million of his own money in building this whole process. So, again, he's got skin in the game. I know that you're paying him $9 million a year, but he gave $1 million that he did not have to give. He could have gone to Scott Woodward and said, listen, I need you to build this. I need $1 million for you to build this recovery center for me. And I'm sure Scott would have done it. Hell, he's paying Blake Baker $2.5 million a year. What makes you think that he wouldn't spend $1 million for a facility renovation? And by the way, speaking of Scott Woodward, do you really think Scott Woodward, who made the splash hire to get Brian Kelly from Notre Dame to LSU, would go down without a fight? See, this offseason for LSU, and I hate using that word offseason because we talk about LSU football so much, it never really is a true offseason. Who do you think Scott Woodward is? Because as much as we talk about him, all the things that we mention about Scott Woodward, LSU being, not having enough funds, LSU not being this, not doing that, they're not fixing things. When's the last time, and here's a big one, when's the last time you heard about a football player or a player in general getting suspended for weed? Sounds like a policy change and it was enacted that we hadn't heard about. When LSU and Scott Woodward was told that they did not have the funds and nobody was backing BK financially, all of a sudden, they started spending the shit out of money. And I just got to tell you, when you bring in number 1 recruiting classes, let's call it what it is. In today's world, it's probably not free. Okay? So are you 1,000% sure that you can tell me that LSU and Brian Kelly, from a financial standpoint, doesn't have backing from people and boosters? Because I know some of them, and they're giving money at a pretty high rate. Now, there's a difference of boosters giving money and LSU being organized. They're not behind in NIL. They're unorganized. I think that's going to change, something that we'll talk about in a little bit. Again, this is the 3rd time I've said it. I know you're tired of talking about it. But about an hour ago, breaking. Let me find the guy. I just want to make sure that I give the right man's the dude's name. About an hour ago, Chris Bayless, and actually 7 minutes ago, is saying this again. Okay. Chris Bayless, senior editor at thewolverine.com. Okay, seems pretty legit. He has a massive amount of followers. Seems like he's pretty good in covering Michigan. Says that, and I'm quoting here, Michigan OC Sharon Moore is expected to be named as the Wolverines' next head coach. The job must be posted for a minimum of 7 days due to state law. Okay, so we got 7 days until something is technically official. All right, makes sense. So we got a week. So I would assume that you're going to hear things within the next 7 days. I would assume that Brian Kelly's name, once again, will be brought up. It's going to be brought up again. Okay? I don't care who you are. Listen to me. I am telling you, 860 episodes in, I know how this media game works. It's going to be brought up again. After you listen to tonight's show, tomorrow when you start listening to people, his name will be brought up again. Regardless of what they say, it's going to be brought up again about this job. If he did go, it would be the dumbest move that he can make. He's not going to, but it would be dumb if he did. You can say, well, Blake's an LSU guy. He's a homer. Okay, sanctions, NCAA sanctions. That's the reasoning. Michigan can say whatever they want. They're about to get popped. Like in a Lil Wayne song, lick you like a lollipop. That's how much they're going to get popped. L after L after L. Look you like a lollipop. Pause. But it's true, and I think you know it's true. Okay. Can we move past it? Can we move past it for now? Because I have a sneaky suspicion it's going to be brought up multiple times in the next 7 days. Now the question becomes, do players hit the portal from Michigan? If they do, the question will always become, does LSU get in the fold with any of them? I am not going to say it will not happen. I would be a little bit shocked if it did. If Sharon Moore is going to stay as the head coach, I don't know if they're going to have a lot of portal exits. I just don't think that they will. But I do find it strange that none of them have hit the portal. See, players know, man. Players know. Players know if a guy's going to get a job or not. I'm sure Sharon Moore knows. I would have a very inkling suspicion that Sharon Moore knows if he's going to be the next head coach of Michigan or not. Because why wouldn't he go look for another job if he wouldn't be? Why wouldn't he go with Jim Harbaugh if he wouldn't be the next head coach? So it's going to be something that we talk about for sure as well. Brandon Reese says, I thought Michigan only wants a Michigan man. That's how they normally do things. Paul Sub says on YouTube, Zenitz and Tham will also listed more as the top dog. No mention of BK from them. And you would think if he was a legitimate candidate that his name would have been brought up. Why isn't his name being brought up? Now, last thing I'll say on this. Here's what I'm going to say on this to end this part. Let me blow my nose right quick. Hold on. Sorry. Can't help it. Got to blow my nose. Okay. Let me light the blunt before I say this. I have had a feeling, okay, this entire time that all of this racket was to get Brian Kelly an extension. But I do believe, okay, and guys have said this for since November. Guys, we've been literally saying this since November that this is how I feel. This is nothing new. Like, go back to any shows we've done about this. This is always how I've felt. Because BK's not being mentioned by the big league national reporting guys, let me tell you from a local perspective what's going to be said now. What's going to be said now is, well, we said that Brian Kelly said that he'd have interest. We never said that Michigan would have interest in him. It's how they're going to weasel their way out of it. Don't listen to it. I'm telling you what I know. It's how they're going to attack this. Don't let people off the hook on it. Because when we started building this, when I started building AYS, some of you didn't let me off the hook on shit. Oh, Blake wasn't right on that. Blake wasn't writing on this. And there are parts of me, yeah, look, you have your favorite dudes. You have the people you listen to. We're not going to be right on everything. All I'm saying is your boy took a lot of shit from people for a long ass time. Funny how the turntables. Okay. Oh, fake braid having a booger nose at little boy. Oh, fake braids. You got weave up in your hair. I am though, man. This right here though, man. It's had me laughing though. It's had me laughing. Toby Guidry says agent driven. Probably. Mikey says somebody called the play from Baton Rouge to Ann Arbor on the flight tracker. Cool. I mean, cool. It is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. If he goes, if ultimately, dude, I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I can't see it. I just can't see it. It'd be nuts. It would be the craziest move one of the crazier moves I've ever seen. Why? It makes no sense unless he just doesn't like Scott Woodward in LSU. That would be the only reason. Maybe there's some,